Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whether you're watching this live or the recording. Welcome to Projectum's A Day in the Life of a Modern PMO. My name's Ian White, and I'm introducing our CEO and founder, Peter Kessenholz, who will be presenting a short deck and a live demo of our Power Apps-based solution. If you have any questions, please pop them in the chat window. We'll either answer them on the fly, or we will have time at the end of the presentation for you to ask questions of Peter directly. With no further ado, I will hand over to Peter, who will guide you through the rest of the presentation.
Thank you, Ian, and hello, good morning, good evening to all of you who are attending live, and also hello to you who are perhaps later watching it through our video page. My name is Peter, as Ian just mentioned. Hopefully quite a few of you also attended yesterday's webcast, which was focused on how the modern project manager can manage the work that you do on a daily basis with the management of your project. Now, today is the focus of a PMO and how a modern PMO can manage and ensure that things are planned top-down, tracked bottom-up, and compared. We have roughly 40 minutes together before a Q&A starts up, which means I will give a short intro in terms of setting the scene and the stage on how we in Projectum think when it comes to project portfolio management. And then we will also showcase as much as I can live how a system works and looks like when it comes to what we call Power PPM, which is essentially our solution for project portfolio management on a Microsoft Power Platform. So let me just click ahead here. So first off, a few intro slides. My name is Peter again, and it's been since 2004 I have been working with Microsoft and specifically within the area of project portfolio and resource management. Last 3 years have been spent a whole lot within the scaled agile or agile ways of working with portfolios. So also having looked into quite a lot to the Azure DevOps, Jira and other tools, and how we can sort of combine all of those ways of working in a new digital world that we're in right now. And I would say that I think even more important today than perhaps a year ago before COVID-19, we see lots of people working remote on work that has to be connected. And to sort of achieve that, we need to rely on digital support or solutions or systems. So I'm actually looking quite forward to sharing with you what we have in store for you. Now, the company as a whole is what we call a Microsoft Power Platform partner, which means we are spanning Power BI for reporting, Power Automate for workflow automation or approval automation, and obviously Power Apps when it comes to having to create business critical applications, but preferably without the use of developers actually. So combined, we are a company that ensures and allows for you to reach out and get support. We have products, various products for certain things, different processes, resource management, etc. And we have consultants, 48 in total, who have been super experienced in the project portfolio space for quite some years, or more than many of them have been working with it for more than a decade. And when we combine our knowledge and our products and our support, we can offer a solution that can solve various business problems, in this case, project portfolio management, and ensuring that we have a full overview on the initiatives we're working on. So that's the company we are. And today, or yesterday, so just to set the scene, yesterday we talked a lot about project management. And today we'll, of course, also tap a little bit into that. But it's mainly today about what to do up here, how to do it, also from a people management perspective. We might have the money we need, but we might not have the people we need. And then all the way through to data quality, auditing. And the way I expressed it yesterday is that quite a lot of people spend tremendous amount of time down in this world where we try to drive the harvesting of data, so we have the right data on time when we need to take decisions. Imagine a world where lots of that data will be collected when it should on time without anyone doing anything. That would leave a whole lot of space for us to spend our time up in this bucket, especially in a PMO setup, on what to do and how to do it. So if we move away from this slide, The way we define portfolio management, which I think is really key for the project management officers out there, or portfolio management officers, is that down at the very bottom, which might seem or sound wrong, but it isn't, but that's where we have our teams working together. This is where we, through Microsoft Teams, for instance, plan our various tasks. We collaborate on documents, we have video meetings, write notes and comments and chat. And this, I think, is something that everyone does, and even more now digitally, as we are, many of us, working from home, but also those who have been used to working across time zones. For those reasons as well, working digital is just a necessity. Now, above these different teams or work that gets done, we often find that there is IT portfolios to manage an IT department, software developers, applications, system of records, and so on. Below there, we can also have another, or on the side of it, another sort of portfolio, which is mainly around managing the business portfolio. So not just the IT projects, but this could be your R&D investments, the HR, marketing events, sales, whatever it is. We also have digital product management, which is mainly around those who produce software. For instance, having products as a subscription model, so they have predefined Azure DevOps teams or Jira teams who break down lots of business cases or epics into tasks. But still, on top of that, you will have a need for portfolio management to better plan ahead in terms of cost and also track the benefits that is getting produced from those Agile teams. And then as a final thing, a place where we're also seeing quite a lot of portfolios leaning towards, I would say, programs, is a scenario where we have companies buying other companies or merging up, where this whole process is also called PMI, not Project Management Institute, but post-merger integration, which is essentially is all these different projects, sometimes 100 that has to be executed within very short time, quite often 100 days, to make the ends meet up. And that's another type of portfolio. So there are some characteristics that are different between these different four portfolio types, but the way that the teams plan and work together quite often is the same. Now, we also unlock when it comes to the capabilities we have to sort of serve as a Microsoft partner and as a solution provider. These capabilities are quite often these on the right side. There are many right here, so we aren't going to read them up, of course. But regardless of you being in a post-merger integration scenario or running IT portfolios, there will be some common denominators on the capabilities that you need. Demand management, so capturing ideas, funneling them through to being projects or initiatives, perhaps having a strategy so that you link to your key drivers or key business plans, performance reporting, project management, etc. And there will also be places where the project manager or the product owner needs to collaborate with the team on other things, something like risks, issues, change requests, and other things. So regardless of the type of portfolio, we saw this need for capabilities for quite some years. And with the Power Platform, we decided to build a solution that we call Power PPM that has these capabilities out of the box. So the framework we're looking at quite often when we have to explain how we execute our work, we call controlled agility. It means we allow people to work agile or traditional, but that we are able to combine the two worlds and still roll up certain sets of data, such as cost or resources. As you can see here, we have the top right here where we're going to spend most of our time today, which is how can we plan our portfolios and fund them? How can we track what goes on within them? And then we have people management as something that is, you could say, relevant both for an agile or a non-agile context, because in an agile or lean portfolio management world, we would be funding teams rather than projects, but still you need to know how many people you have available within those teams. So resource management is still key. Timesheeting for some is also key. So this is sort of what surrounds the typical project management processes. So those are the ones we're looking for today. And for those who didn't attend yesterday, there's a webcast out there that will explain much more about the details of the box in between or in the middle. So when it comes to tool of choice, we want to allow project managers to schedule their activities and tasks in a tool that they prefer. This could be the brand new project for web. It could be project operations coming soon from Dynamics for professional services. Could be project online, actually, for those who have a more advanced need for planning, for instance, with earned value and S-curves and other things. It could also be Planner, DevOps, Jira. Tasks is also a thing we can do in Power Apps natively. We can also connect tasks to Project the desktop client. So there are different varieties, and maybe you want to support all of them in your business, which you can do. But the overarching umbrella that we want to be and try to ensure will work is the portfolio level up here. So that projects on this level are always connected up to something bigger. And up here, that's where we can plan top down as well. So this can always be reported on in Power BI across the whole lot. And I'm going to give you some examples of that as well in the presentation. So let's try and switch to live. So I'm just going to go to this view. So right now we are arriving right into what we call a Power App. This is a model-driven Power App, and it's a predefined solution called Power PPM. So it might be that Microsoft is saying that Power Platform is, or Power Apps is a low-code, no-code approach to business applications, and it should be like that for customers. But in reality, we have made lots of investments and code to make sure that we could ensure that a PMO would have all these capabilities that are needed. And some of these absolutely had to be coded and still maintained and shipped with new updates and features constantly. So we have an entire team doing that in Projectum right now, and this is sort of the result. Now, if we start in reverse, for sure, as a PMO, you would like to pull information and showcase what's going on to your stakeholders. One way of achieving that could be through these dashboards that are the built-in dashboards inside Dynamics or Power Apps. These are always real-time. Essentially, if I do a project right now, I went back to it, you will see immediately the result of that. So this is not Power BI for those who are familiar with that. We'll get back to that. If I find something of interest, I can always expand the chart by clicking anywhere and get it in full screen. I can then change the view if there are various views for this, or I can click right here and drill down into any data that has my interest or that we are allowing people to drill down into. So for these 26 projects that are in the initiate process, perhaps it would be ideal for us to check up on, for instance, departments, forecasts, descriptions, probably something else, the name perhaps, considering this is a chart or a dashboard. But it could also be which tasks tools are being used to drive these projects in perhaps a pie chart. So here you will see that for the initiate projects, we have 9 projects in total being driven in Power PPM from a scheduling perspective. We have 3 that are being driven in the project desktop, 3 in project for the web, some runs in DevOps, and we have 6 in Jira and so forth. Of course, you can control which tools are allowed to connect to, but the idea here is that we can get the overall overview on what goes on and in real time. So moving away from that one, then the other ways of tracking our data is obviously through Power BI, which can do much more when it comes to customizing the visual experience. So if I click down here, you will see a Power BI report where this can do more than just show data, in my opinion. So those of you who are familiar with Project Online or Project Server, maybe you know about the ways where you can balance your investments or your portfolios against business drivers. We offer the same functionality, and those are some of the things I'll cover soon in this presentation over on the left side with drivers and themes and benefits and whatnot. But before we arrive at that, the whole idea about it is that we can get an overview, and this dashboard can be shown as right now inside here, inside Teams, on your iPads, on your Android tablets, whatever you have. If we look at this, there will be some highlights. For instance, we have 17 projects with an average ROI of 1.29. We have all these benefits, all these budgets. 10 of them have a red KPI right now, and we have 12.82 million, in this case USD, in cost variance. So down here we can see something like the themes, so the strategic themes that we are funding, how much the portfolios are already allocating towards those themes. I'll go back to the link between those two, and how much the projects have been consuming of that budget. So this is top-down and bottom-up meeting together. If we look at this one, which I find most interesting, regardless of the stage, all projects right now that we have access to, that are active, we have 0 of them supporting the idea about the next generation products, which is our #1 priority from a business perspective. So UN sustainability goals are also #2 or very important. Here we are spending 44% of our total budget for projects on that initiative. So that's actually a little bit of overspending. Same thing applies here, same thing there, and we even have 15% being spent on something we don't know what is. So perhaps clicking on that one could be relevant. And here you will then see the filtered view of what goes on in that bucket. So as you can see, we have 4 projects right here. 3 of them show up in this view. That's because then they have the benefits and the strategic score. We can hover over and also get some more insights on strategic score in terms of numbers or ROI and benefits in general. But as you can see, it's not really linked to any specific theme that is being funded, which means strategy-wise, there is no budget reserved for these initiatives. So they might be okay to run because of other reasons, but we have to investigate, I guess, why they're there. We can also filter by project type, what goes on in the transformation team, or the run, or the grow. Or we can even filter by everything that is not started yet, like this, and get the same overview. So this is a clear case of, regardless of money and people, I need better ideas supporting this one up here, because I don't have any. So sometimes the whole idea about portfolio balancing is also to ensure we have the right mix of ideas and projects supporting our strategy. So it's not always just a matter of getting more money or more resources. Besides this view, we have many more dashboards that we could provide. Most tend to tailor their own, and many of you probably already have Power BI skills. And what we offer with this solution is that all data is in one database. So imagine that gigantic pivot table you can suddenly access, and everything is just there. That is what we can give you. So you can build your own dashboards in any way or shape that you might feel like, and we can even export them to PowerPoint. Now, if I were in the PMO, of course, I would see data like this regularly, but I could also go here and check up on the data in a more traditional form, where we have the projects with a KPI, which portfolio they're in, maybe how many projects by stage. This will be a way of tracking actual cost versus remaining cost. Summarize that sort of your forecast. We could click over here and see all the projects again by portfolio or by program. And we also have dashboards for financials, CapEx, OpEx, and time phased, of course, included, sorted by highest cost variance, which is always relevant. We can also drill down into something like the ideas that are coming in and how the ideas are scored against strategy versus the active projects. And we also have a timeline for those who just want to ensure that we don't have to copy paste it. And I can see that's probably something I need to look into. It's not set up yet, sorry for that. I have that later on covered. Deliverables across everything, how many are delayed, how many are early. We talked about that yesterday as well, how that could be managed in a project management context. And we have many more things, and I have limited time. So again, as I mentioned yesterday, if you are to or want to try out these dashboards or the system, we offer a trial experience where you can have more time and on your own try out these capabilities. But this was just to give you an idea about how it could look like. So going back to the actual system. So imagine again the PMO and the different processes the PMO have to support. There could be many areas. So we're going to start with one area, which is ideas. So we have an intake engine down here. And ideas for some means that maybe a few people or all people are allowed to go in through this interface or perhaps Microsoft Teams and create a new idea. Essentially, you can quickly click on the new button and call it my webcast PMO idea, like this form. And these forms, of course, can be customized. I could then make a simple description of some sort, like this. I could perhaps also calculate time to ROI. So perhaps 24 months from now, I expect this could be a break even. The budget for this is 1.2 million. And the benefits I think of is probably in the area of 5 million. Then I can hit save, like this. And now it's saved immediately, and we have a calculated ROI as well. I could also ensure that this project gets created as a real project, or idea, sorry, as a real project, the moment we are ready for actually running it. Before we do that, we could have people, many people, me, the portfolio team, score it. This is just a very basic example on how we could do that. So when we save it right now, you will see that it gets an idea score up here worth 5. When we then want to fund an idea, again, this could be a business process, but it could also be as simple as clicking now it's funded. And now you want to explain who has funded it, which could be perhaps this guy. maybe me. I think that's probably easier. Myself. So let's create this as a project, and I hit save now. And as you can see in real time, in less than a second, an idea has now become a project. So there's now a link to a real project. You can also see the symbol here represents a project. That's why we have it up here as well. So if I click there, I can go immediately to the project overview. And of course, we have carried over the description, plus some information about the business benefits or budget, whatever we have. We have also carried over who's the approver, who's the sponsor, and several other things we want to manage. Now, today is not about the projects or the project management. So for that, you have to watch, again, the webcast from yesterday. But of course, we can do certain things here that are relevant. Perhaps link it to a portfolio and a program and a driver. So the PMO's function, of course, is to support that we have the right portfolios available and the right programs and so on. So if we just move a little bit away from the whole project management part now and start in the strategy area, in here we have themes. So for these themes, we can manage quickly also who is owning a business theme. Some tend to go with the Gartner approach, which is called grow, run, transform, so the different buckets. It could also be something like UN sustainability goals, remote efficiency, or new markets, and whatever you want to call a business strategy. Below a theme, if we just click on, for instance, this one, I guess, in here you can then have lots of drivers, business drivers. And these business drivers, those are the tangible ones. So these are the ones that your business cases, your projects, your programs should be associated with. So let's take one that already has some. For instance, this one down here, the UN sustainability goals. Within that bucket, we have 3 related drivers: gender equality, good health, and partnerships. We can see how many ideas are supporting it right now. We can also see how many projects are supporting it. We could see many other things if we wanted to. And if we click on one of these drivers, we open up the driver definition, where we have the UN goals created right here, a way to chat and attach documents and other information that's relevant to our business driver and for others to see. We can see related projects right here as a dashboard and related ideas. So if you have a strategy officer or similar profile who is in charge of ensuring that themes, drivers, benefits are managed and tracked, then I think these entities that you can work with now is a big step forward compared to what we were used to offer or available to our users. So besides that, you might also want to track benefits. So here we have all the benefit plans that are active. Again, a benefit plan can be connected to a project, and we can see top-down plan benefit versus bottom-up actual benefits. It's actually quite simple. And if we just take the storyline quickly for that one, if we take the idea we just did, which was the webcast PMO idea, and open up the project again. From here, I can also, again, readjust my plan benefits because I might have learned something now that I didn't know before, 4.8 maybe, like this. And I can also create a benefit plan, clicking yes to that one, and hit save. Immediately that triggers the creation of a benefit plan, webcast PMO idea. So again, if I stand here, I can see that there is now a webcast PMO idea. That is a benefit plan, where we have planned benefits worth 4.8 million euros. If I click on it, I can also have a grid down here where I can start to track either automatically or manually the amount of benefits that I have gained, harvested, however you want to track it, like this, and hit save. And up here, once an hour, it automatically rolls up, but then you can compare suddenly your actual benefits with your planned benefit. Something that many is in need of and always try to do, but never really succeed at. And I think we can do that quite easily as a starting point with just doing this that I showed. Of course, you can also add other benefit lines. So you can click new and create a custom benefit row 2, perhaps, whatever you want to call it, with some commenting or other things you want to attach, even changing the currency. Hitting save brings you a new line, and then you can do the same thing again and build your own ways of tracking benefits. So that was a little bit about the themes, the drivers, the benefits. And for each of these, we also have the ability to add charts. I'm going to show you that later, how that works. So going back into the portfolios, this is the place where we have our portfolios created top down. So a portfolio is not just a name, it's a thing we can manage and set up. Right now we have all these portfolios, and if I just remove this and click on show chart, you can see these are the portfolios we have, the budget for each portfolio, and the sum of what goes on within it, even the way through to actual cost as well, in one quick dashboard. This view, of course, we can also expand and drill down and see what goes on within the the portfolio of growth, perhaps. We want to see certain things, the owners, the budgets divided by health, how many projects are good, green, or red and yellow, and so on and so forth. There we go. So let's try and go back to the starting point. Let's click here and take the grow portfolio. Because right here, when we arrive, we will see that I have grow as the name of the portfolio, which is, sorry, that was a little bit too fast, this one, which is connected to the strategic theme called grow as well. So there's a direct relationship between portfolios and strategic direction. You don't have to plan like that, but many prefer that, because then we can have all the stuff that goes on in the system connect straight into what we normally would see in PowerPoints, the business strategy. Portfolio as well can have a budget. 20 million has been set aside. It can be a certain type, traditional, which is what I'm showing now, or lean value. Lean value is where we sort of fund the epics and the teams in another type of backlog, where right now I'm working with a typical stage gate approach to creating our projects. I'll get back to that. So, of course, besides having a portfolio status such as active, inactive, or a description of some sort, we can also set a status as a portfolio owner manually, automatically. We can see all the program financials and all the project financials that are linked to this portfolio being aggregated up into one master view. So the point is that if programs are established, then the budgets, of course, should come from here and end up there. But if it's a project without a program, we need to pull the project budget immediately up here. So we can actually differentiate between if a project is part of a program or not, so that we count all our data and currency the right way. So besides that, we also have an overview of related projects like this. These are all the projects in the portfolio, and we can filter that by project tool, or sorry, execution tool. So project, DevOps, Jira, whatever it is, which stage it's in. And of course, this can also be shown in some nice Power BI report, as I showed in the beginning. We can also export all the data in real time to Word if we wanted to, and have a predefined PMO or portfolio template that we can get all our data into, also in PowerPoint. We can see related programs. There is one in this case. We can see the program has 8 projects, 16 risks, and 3 issues, and so forth. We have related epics even, if you want to pull in other types of projects, which is quite often called initiatives, or just business cases, or epics. We have the aggregated view of all risks across all projects in one big, massive view. I'm not saying you probably need that, but I'm showing it today because we can. So this is the combined matrix for an entire portfolio in real time. So every time a project manager creates a risk, it pops up if it's connected to the portfolio right here. So I can click now and look at what is going on in this bucket and see these are the 4 risks right now that has issues that are quite impactful and quite, how to say, with a high probability, or 100%. So actually, absolutely sure about it, actually. And so we can click on and get the overview across a portfolio. We could do the same thing for issues. We could do the same thing for stakeholder managers and so forth. We could also click issues and just get a list. The list of all issues in my portfolio, filtered by state, filtered by category. Portfolio, again, is probably the same one because you're already in the portfolio context. But the whole idea is that we can aggregate everything so that the portfolio manager do not have to leave this tool or wait for some other report to be refreshed with data next week. So going back here, there are other things that are really powerful as well. We support an ability to also showcase live your timelines for this portfolio. Some people prefer to call that a roadmap. And if I click on that one right now, you will see the summarized view of all your projects in the portfolio. And every time there's something we can expand like this, it means probably that it's either running or that there's other things below here we want to check up on. As an example, in the Build Linguistics project, we have 2 phases or 2 gates, depending on how you set them up, and something going on below that. We can tag this with different things like this is a deliverable, this has been done. Below here, we could have another one where this is the phase, or here as well, phase 2, where we have a system design, then a use case, then something else, and then we have gate 2. Quite soon, we will also support the ability to link across, which means that we can take from one project and connect to another project and have this being done as well. So besides that, if things have not started yet at all, you could also allow for this to be a lightweight simulation tool where you could go in, look at all ideas that are starting up, the demand part of your work as a PMO, and rearrange when things should be executed. Perhaps even extend them or shorten them. And of course, this can have an impact on cost and resources, but that would require that each of them have information about cost and resources, which they have. And again, to see how that is being done, check the webcast from yesterday, because we can actually track what the impact is by doing this from a financial perspective before you execute the projects. We can go full screen. We can change the view on this so it fits a certain corporate identity. We can go into months, weeks, days even, or years, depending on your project types. And we can have the tagging that is being done in a certain way, also the level you want to look at. So if I perhaps go into lowest level, but I only want to see deliverables, then this is the view across your projects within the portfolio. Same thing applies for the program. So a program is also an entity that I can create from the ground up. I can open up a program and see what goes on. And the program might have a more detailed approach to managing the budget. In this case, quite, simplistic with an OPEX and a CAPEX. It could be time-phased as well. And I can see the amount of projects, again, the budgets, the actual cost, the forecast. I cannot change anything because it's coming from the related projects into this program. But of course, here I also have a timeline. So I can, from this view again, see the combined program timeline. Again, on different levels. If you want to go to none, perhaps we say the summarized view, we can see % complete and so on and so forth. So quite powerful as this is real time. And if I want to bring in something we just did also in the PMO context, let's imagine you have this view. It could be the same for the portfolio. Now you want to add the project we just did together. So on the related projects, I can quickly grab something that has already been made by clicking here and pick up the webcast PMO idea. I can then add it in. So now it's part of it. I can go to timeline. Just refresh the page, I think, quickly. There we go. Like this. And now we should see also that we have another project, the webcast PMO idea. There are no tasks in it yet, but that doesn't block me from actually doing this as a program manager. Essentially, what we can also do, of course, is to allow that the project manager, whatever they do, will be rolled up into this view. So, of course, this is what the demo yesterday. So, of course, the person doing this will have the ability to create a timeline, again, using either this tool that I have or Microsoft Project, Jira, again, whatever tool you prefer to use as a project manager. What we also support with this is the simplicity of templates. And I did not show that yesterday, and I want to show that today because I think from a PMO standpoint, it's quite often useful and powerful to ensure that people have at least some sort of structure in their plans that is comparable to other plans. So a simple case of that is that you can say, I want to add a template. You can have various templates or building blocks available. Could be this one. Then you can just hit save. It might take 30 seconds or a minute because we're now using Microsoft Flow or Power Automate to ensure that stuff now happens the right way. So if I click refresh, we actually have up here a view that shows you real time what's going on. It's right now adding tasks to the timeline. If I refresh again, I'm pretty sure it's done quite soon. Almost, it's still doing that. Let's wait a few seconds more. Still doing that, but we can still open up and see what it has injected already. So probably some more structure is needed. This was a quick template I did before we arrived here, so it's not really ready and up and running with all the details. But the point is we can inject a predefined business template or project template. So the moment we now go back, perhaps with some progress complete as well, if we then go back to our program or portfolio within the timeline, open it up, you will now find that the webcast PMO idea also has stuff going on below there. We can quickly see the deliverables and whatever it is that goes on. So the ability to create something top down Perhaps a portfolio can be done in 2 seconds. So my webcast portfolio, just hit save, or maybe link it to a theme before I do that. Could be new markets. Save. Then you go in and you launch new projects or you add existing projects. We also control that data is always accurate, meaning that we don't double count anything. That's a typical mistake many do. So if I select the webcast PMO idea and put that into this portfolio, I am allowed to do that because this portfolio or this project was not connected to a portfolio. But if I do the same for a program, my webcast, you might remember, of course, that we already attached the webcast idea to a program, but this is a new program. So now I'll try to do the same again. And the system will say you can't, because this project already has a parent record, which is extremely useful, because then we know that we don't double count the budgets, double count the resources or the work or whatever it is that we're trying to track in a PMO function. So besides this, then of course we would also like sometimes to see where are things taking place. So when it comes to the collaboration, which is what I'm after right now, we can also see all the projects that are created and which primary Teams channel they're using. And clicking here will bring us to Microsoft Teams, of course. This is a simple way to ensure that we have the overview of where can we find data, documents, and even pull from those different team sites if you want to aggregate it somewhere else. We have the combined view of risks, the combined view of change requests, the combined view of tasks even, if it's coming from a Gantt chart system or project or whatever you have, the combined view of issues, and so forth. And everywhere we go, we can add these simple charts. I don't think I have one right now. Maybe I have one, which always shows you the real-time data. It's actually so fast. So if I were to go into one of these and just change this name to hello, something, save, and maybe even click to closed. Then when I go back to the issues overview, show chart, and this was now closed, so we have something called state. We can immediately see in real time as well that we are now a new one. You didn't see that before, but we have something that has been closed. And again, if we click there, we can drill down and see the one we just created. I think, where is it? There we go. Hello, 98. So charts, absolutely real time, without any delay at all. And as you can see, system performance-wise and what I'm doing, most of the stuff takes a second, if not less, to execute, regardless of it being a workflow that creates a project or connects it to a benefit plan or whatever it is. It's extremely fast and extremely powerful because users will really feel that this is a tool that doesn't sort of steal time away from them for where they can be productive. So one of the key things that is left to discuss and share a little bit about is the ability to manage resources. Now, sometimes we find that some companies have various PMO functions within the same company. So you can have different apps or different Power PPM systems up and running within the same company. The problem here could be that if we manage resources within each, then we can double count again that I am in a portfolio A, B, C, and D, or maybe even in different databases. So when you sort of look at me as a person, I will have the wrong capacity set up. So that's why our way of managing resources is done on the side of this application, because we know that the real users of a resource management tool is in fact the resource manager. So, or a team manager, or departmental lead, or functional lead. There are many names for that. But these people are typically used to managing resources in a spreadsheet. So we don't want to force them into a PPM system, which is something else. So we created Team Planner, which is a tool that we've had for many years. Now it's in a brand new edition, tailored for teams and running on the latest and greatest Microsoft technology. And if I switch to this view, then this is how it looks. And again, those who attended yesterday's session would notice that we created a project and we created some requests. So this is showing you as a line manager that I can log in and from here see all the projects on the left side that is impacting my business unit. I can also on the right side see which resources I have available that I'm in charge of. Consultants, developers, project managers, not so many in this case. And then what I can do is look at, for this project, somebody is requesting 80 hours of work, that's the request, for a Netherlands consultant who can help me with the analysis phase. We can also see sort of this role that is required, what is the intention of the use of that role. Then I can find that we have Eric Kirk in the Netherlands. I can also see his availability in real time. All of this is real time, always. I can pull him in, replace him with the role, because that is the job of the line manager. And look at Eric, who has 23 hours left in September, and we need 80. Essentially, we could split the work with someone else. So we give 2 named resources, but even Christian is in the deficit, so that doesn't help us as well. But if we were to allocate him anyways down here and just ignore that he's already allocated and write 80, he would of course also be in deficit. But from a project perspective, we have given exactly what was asked for. But here comes the next thing. How can the PMO give a tool to the resource managers where they can balance this problem, the bottlenecks? So here we made a simple approach so that when you click on this guy, it shows the combined projects the guy is working on in that month. So this way I can in real time as well balance that he probably shouldn't work on this one or maybe that one. So remove this, remove that, maybe even reduce this to 20. And as you can see up here, now he's in 15% surplus, which is great. But then I can go back to where I came from. He still has his allocation, but he's now not over allocated. Of course, this has an issue for other people, but that's another problem, of course, to solve. But at least we can offer a tool that connects to the projects where project managers can request resources and resource managers can give resources, and all in real time from a website like this or web screen, or from within Microsoft Teams directly. On a final note, of course, reporting is highly relevant for a resource manager as well. So we also have the power to embed Power BI reports right into this tool. It could be something like allocation reports, where we can, let's just go to the next page, see who is available by role based on the capacity, what they're working on, who's in deficit, who is not, filtered by different roles of people, filtered by perhaps, let's just do this, perhaps by skills or whatever you want to manage, or by team. Same thing for the project managers overview, projects 368 or whatever project we have. What's the balance between requested hours, allocated hours, and even actual hours? Because that's the final thing we can also offer, which is a timesheeting mechanism, where you can simply from here or directly within Microsoft Teams track and plan time, such as the same thing with your resources, and give this simple, powerful tool for your team members to go in, allocate some time to, that already pulls from the project. So you can write something here and perhaps find more tasks where, maybe I don't have one. I don't have any, but I would probably find tasks where I'm related, connected. These tasks could be Microsoft Teams, we register time on. It could be Jira, it could be DevOps, doesn't matter. And we can hit submit and send away our timesheets, and others can, of course, approve them. There's an approval overview and so forth. So all combined, we have a full overview to manage our projects in. We have the ability to track and plan almost everything that goes on within the teams. We can allow people to stay in Microsoft Teams. We can allow resource managers to upgrade from Excel into something much more modern, but that behaves and acts in real time like Excel would. And we can even offer a timesheeting tool that's extremely lightweight and easy to use within Microsoft Teams as well. So now my 40 minutes are up exactly, if my watch is not wrong. So before I hand it over to Ian to sort of explain to me some of the questions we've received, what you should know again is that we also offer a trial experience. So we have lots of videos and lots of information on our websites. But essentially the point is you can sign up and try this out yourself if you're interested. So that's a matter of reaching out.
Yes, thank you, Peter. That was brilliant. And we were asked how long was the trial period, and I said typically it's a month. We think that that is a normal amount of time for organizations that really want to do something to get benefit and understand what this can do. I've got another question, which was, obviously people go through a trial to feel the system, but how long does it take typically to actually deploy the system within an organization?
The technical deployment is done within a few days. Actually, it can be done within an hour. The solution can come predefined as is, and then we import it. That's the power of Power Apps. You have something called solutions, so it's really simple to inject. Of course, there'll be some talks with IT, typically on security and which AD groups are people pulling from so that they're allowed into the system, and and those things. But technically speaking, it's a matter of days quite often. Then, of course, comes the configuration. Many have a tendency, of course, to change what we have been setting up, which is perfectly fine and does not require code. So I would say a normal pilot slash POC experience is typically something we can have up and running within 3 to 4 weeks, I guess, with a small team of a couple of persons from our side. So it's extremely fast compared to in the old days, and obviously also requires the customers to be more than ready with the right answers and the requirements to some extent. So yeah, I would say always less than a month, sometimes more than a week, something in between there. And then of course you can enhance the system over time, but that's where we offer either to train the PMO so that they can themselves do this, simply because it doesn't require coding skills, or we can of course assist them with some sort of a support arrangement.
That's great. I think that's very clear. And I think I've got a question on just generally licensing. What's our licensing strategy, and what sort of licenses do the roles need that are using it?
Yeah, that's interesting. Today's about the PMO, right? So I would say that the overall licensing, if we just go through to this landing page we had here, just a second, I think that's easier. So Power PPM, the application in itself to run the project management part. I'm not talking about the schedule just yet, but the project management of all the processes, the programs, the portfolios, and all the other stuff. That requires a subscription from us called Power PPM, which is $1,500 per month, regardless of users. That's one thing. The other part is that, of course, if you want to have your project managers use a certain tool, it could be Project, it could be a planner, it could be Jira, depending on that selection and what you offer to your users, then of course those different tools comes with a cost. Some might have Planner already because it's part of Office 365. Some already have Jira. Some already have Project. So I think that all depends on the scheduling tool of choice that you're sort of allowing your users to have. But the rest is Power Apps licensing from Microsoft plus the subscription up here.
That's pretty clear. Another question is around frameworks. So I suppose in traditional frameworks like PMBOK or Prince2, or modern frameworks like SAFe, things like that, how do we deal with those sorts of things?
I think we always try to take a hybrid approach. Having been doing this thing for quite some years. I've never really met the all-up scaled agile company. I met the company that takes half of it and then have other half of it being customized to their needs. Of course, you have Prince2 that we could easily have out of the box set up, but again, many have a tendency to change some of the things that goes on. But to give you an example of it, which is probably better, considering I now have the airtime here. Let me just find the right overview. This is not the one, this one. So what I could essentially do is that I could have, if it's Agile we're talking about, then I would quite often have what is called a lean Agile portfolio, which is something else, as you can also see here on the type. It probably still needs funding, but the funding is mainly around the size of the team that is within that portfolio. So the combined sum of people and their work hours, maybe times a certain cost, that gives you a portfolio cost that you more or less know ahead because it's fixed effort more or less. But the way we bring the data in is then not maybe perhaps through projects. Sometimes we hear that that's called initiatives. Some even tend to call it epics. So we do have something called epics, which is the portfolio epics if you went to scaled agile. Here we can also create something, of course, but this is different than the normal project. Already on the stage gate model, you will find that this is not a typical project where you have an ideation stage, then you plan it, then you run it, then you implement it, then you check it. But this one is what we call the portfolio epic Kanban board, which is part of scaled agile. And actually, if I write, let me just write webcast epic here, hit save. What you'll find now is that we can pre-add lots of text here. This is just to showcase how it works. But this description up here, this text, these questions are one-to-one with how the Scaled Agile Institute defines a portfolio epic, one-to-one. The next question quite often is, so how can we add some cost here? How can we add some risks here? Do we need that at all? And that's where we have a guiding, I would say, workshop with customers where we talk about, if we look at the normal projects in your business, which sort of elements from this level up here, financials, risks, whatever it is, do you need to take place on this level? And then we add that functionality up here as well, because it's already there. But out of the box, creating perhaps a portfolio epic like this is in Skilled Agile, that is what you're seeing right now, no more, no less. And then we connect this to a system, of course.
Yeah, so what you're saying is many of the components are a bit like Lego. You can plug them in or plug them out depending on what you actually need in which part of the system.
Yes, exactly what we have. So some prefer to build the application from the ground up, and some prefer to take what we have and change it. Regardless, there are two solutions that are part of Power PPM. The foundational one, which is where all the coded components are in, the risk matrix, the calculations, even the timeline and the roadmap and all of that I showed is part of that. So they can be reused in any context. And then, of course, on top of that, we have a pre-defined, ready-to-go application that you can use or not use. But regardless, cost is the same, $1,500 a month, regardless of amount of users.
And last question I've got backlogged here is around integration and how easy or difficult that might be into third-party solutions that we might be able to put information in. I know you talked about it briefly on the financials, but if you could just expand on that a bit.
Yeah, I think one of the true powers of Power Platform is, in fact, this is a good question, the ability to integrate. So, of course, if you look at, let's say, a good example in a financial view, we could add a new financial year like this, 2021, and then below there, we could start either writing actual cost or pulling actual cost. So we could get actual cost from other systems. To do that, you would, in the old days, have to do quite a lot of coding. In this new world or era of applications, what we can do is that in the backend, which is where the PMO should get familiar, by the way, because it's a pretty backend, in the environment where we right now have our system running, let me just close this one, then I have something called data, and I have something called data flows. So it's actually really simple to set up a connection. Let's create a new data flow like this, just as an example. And this is where we set up, without skills of a developer, pulling in data from Azure, from SAP, from Salesforce, from somewhere, even Amazon or Oracle, IBM, doesn't matter, or SharePoint. We can also pull in information via Excel, PDF, XML. So no matter what people bring at me, typically I would say we can import data from that system or that source. Once you have then selected that, the only thing you then have to do is do the mapping, which data goes where from the source, of course, which is also something you can do. And then you have to figure out how often should this connection refresh. Should it be manually done by the PMO once a month? Or do you want it automatically to happen every minute, every hour, every day, depending on how fast you are from your ERP system, as an example, to export your data, of course. So this is not coding, this is really powerful, and it's a native part of Power Apps and the licenses for Power Apps.
Great. So we just had a question come in from Mr. Anonymous, who asked a lot of questions. Is it possible to have both traditional projects and epics, Agile style projects, in the same portfolio?
Well, absolutely. And I think in this system I'm showing here, we have differentiated completely between a project and an Agile initiative or an epic. For those who are perhaps a little bit more hybrid, where it's not either or, I think an example of that I can show if you just give me 1 second to switch to another one. I think we can do that quite quickly. So allow me to just switch to this and run this app. So that's a good example on that I can launch different Power PPM solutions depending on the departments, perhaps. So in this one, I have another view. If I go to projects, then everything goes on in the same bucket, whether or not it's Agile or hybrid. The difference here is that if I open up one of these, then I can ensure that for each project, let me just change this one to a different type, large project. I have to change the form type just a second, because I really want to show this. Here we go. And back to start. So notice that we can work Agile or traditional or hybrid. But if I work Agile, like now, then it shows me an epic is created in Azure DevOps. So that's at the highest level, more or less, in DevOps. And it also shows me the link to that, and we can pull the features that are planned, the features that are done. Some sort of ways of explaining what's going on. We can also switch back to traditional, which brings me a more classical way of tracking progress. Duration, start date, finish date based on a project plan. So this approach is where you sort of say we all rely on the same approach to managing a business case, but the scheduling mechanism should change depending on the methodology. So that's the hybrid approach. The other one I showed, of course, before is more separated, where we say the business case is not the same and the portfolios are not the same if it's agile or traditional. It's two separate ways of thinking and working. And I think the whole idea is that in lean agile, you fund portfolios, you fund teams and people. You do not fund projects. And in the traditional world, you are funding projects and business cases. So it's a mix of many things, sometimes hybrid, sometimes agile, sometimes traditional, sometimes it's all three in the same system. We support the whole thing. It's just a matter of identifying, obviously, what your operating model is and what you prefer.
That's great. Thank you very much, Peter. I think that answers that question. So the answer simply is yes, of course, we can have both.
Yeah, yes.
It's a simple answer, but we've also demonstrated it as well. There are no other questions now in the backlog. So what I'm going to do is just close off the questions now. I'll just remind everybody, if you want to see what was shown yesterday in the chat window, you'll see the links to yesterday's recording that Peter made, and I do recommend, if you weren't there, to go and have a look at that, because that covers the other part of the same system. It's not a different system, it's the same system. And we'll be posting more webinars on different areas. There's a lot of change coming up in terms of launches around project operations, new revisions to our own solutions that we'll be talking about. And we do hope to see you there. But in the meantime, Peter, if you want to take the last word.
Yeah, I would just like to say thank you all for watching, and for those who see it later on, also thanks to you. I always feel happy that I'm allowed to share these thoughts, because on a final note, I think having been doing this for 18 years, it's sort of magic that we can now take our experiences and wrap it into one solution that can sort of be installed immediately. So I really hope that those of you who are watching this and like it would reach out and request this trial experience, so that you can feel for yourself the power and the performance and all of it. And perhaps even at some point reach out to us and do a pilot with us for POC. So thanks for watching, and take care to all of you, and goodbye.